Welcome back, everyone. I wanted to provide an update. If you watched my last few videos, I mentioned the possibility of a pre-halving sell-off and kind of like where we could expect to get support. I was saying that around that 18, since we struggled there so much, that would be like a really extremely strong level of support. I even made a meme about it like a few maybe like last week on X about like put a picture of like Arnold Schwarzenegger and had him like flexing his muscles, saying that was the strength of like the 18 cent support level. Even though we hadn't retraced there yet, typically it's when we struggle to break above it. Again, that's what I meant. Why it would be a great swapping location for people who have current averages there. A lot of contracts are going to be there. When you are struggling to break above it, typically it just kind of flip flops. So wherever there is resistance, typically there is support. And that turns out that it's, well, I guess it's kind of turning out that that's going to be true. And with the level of support that we're getting at around the 18 mark, we're going to take a look at it on the chart here because it looks almost perfect on the charts. But I wanted to give you an idea of what's going on behind the candles, because sometimes you're both thinking like, hey, what's going on, or is it have we peaked, or is this going to be like a major sell-off? And I want to tell you that for this bull run right now, the longs are higher than they have been the entire time. We're creeping toward 80% long and 20% short, right? We're probably within the next hour or so, we're going to cross the 75% long, 25% short. Even though it's not being reflected on the price action just yet, this is giving you an idea of the tone of the market and where they actually believe the value of the coin is. So what does this mean? This is mean that most of the investors in the coin believe that Doge is undervalued at this mark. But we're also going to take a look and see who's liquidating, because matter of fact, let's take a look right now. It's the longs that are liquidating. So for those of you who this may be your first video, I'm sure you're asking yourself, how can the longs be liquidating 3-1 compared to the shorts, but they're also buying 3-1? Well, this is what they do when they are taking a position, more so just pulling profit out, reinvesting capital, and getting ready to ride the next wave up. So typically these are people that got in at around 10, 12, 15 cent. They're pulling out profit right now, but they still believe that the coin has more momentum to the upside to go. So they're just swapping their position. So they're also pulling out 3-1, but they're also buying 3-1, right? So if you look at the 24-hour liquidations for longs are dominating. You can see right here, excuse me, right, where's the chart? The red right here. So you'll see that the red is long sell, shorts buy is green. Red is dominating. Longs are dominating the sell. But if you look at the long short ratio here on the chart, look at the 5-minute, 74% to 25%. The 30-minute, 74 to 25. The 1 hour, 74 to 25. The 4 hour, 74 to 25. The 1 day, 71 to 28. So they're coming right back in, but you're seeing that swap there of the overall price. So typically, when they're doing this is mostly going to be options contracts. But typically what you're going to do when you are taking these positions here, if they are hedging a position that they already have in actual coins, then typically they'll follow suit there as well. So you may see some profit. That's kind of how you can kind of get profit to price action to kind of mirror what's going on behind the scenes, because typically you can hedge your actual holdings with options. So typically you'll see that what they're doing here. So that's kind of how it's aligning up. But overall, longs are saying that we are undervalued and they believe we have higher to go. So that is a very interesting tone that we have here, but it's kind of what to be expected. I don't believe that we are anywhere like it will be weird to call Dogecoin's peak or really any crypto's peak prior to the halving. Like even if we're to look at the entire history of cryptocurrency, that simply does not make sense. So I don't believe any coin. Well, I'm not gonna say any coin because I'm sure there's a coin I don't know about, and it's probably gonna have peaked now. But I'll say it's highly unlikely for any coin in the top 10 to already be at peak bull run, peak price action, peak momentum, anything really prior to the halving. I think that's going to happen on the other side of that hill. So let's take a look here at price action because I want to show you how perfectly this is lining up. So we are right here, right here at the bottom of the zone here, where we have pretty much where we're trying to break above. So literally resting on the support, right? Literally resting on the area that we were struggling to break above. So this is one of the things I was saying that this level here should provide an absolute. It should be a beast when it comes to actual support. And people are saying, "Oh, okay, it's now a great time to buy." For those of you asking. Um, Now, buying at support is it's typically if you're buying at zones, if you're always going to buy at like the bottom of the zone, that's always going to be smart because it opens up the rest of the zone to give you the potential for profit. Now, in the event that we go below 18, right? We have a big sell off, something in the macros, we have like that flash dip below. That's going to be optimal time for entry, right? Something like what if you guys remember, something like happens at 15, like 15 was the support and then we had that brief breakdown here. Now, even though we that next day we had an engulfing candle, and it literally snapped back the entire previous 48 hours of being down. If you're able to catch something like that, pretty much what it looks like is if you're looking on a chart, it'll go from undervalued to like extremely undervalued, right? And then at that point, you can, for an analogy, you can kind of just take like a rubber band and pull it, right? But if you pull it halfway back as far as to its max and you let it go, it has some momentum, it pops back really quick. But when you start to pull it back like really far, like a stretch it as far as you can, that momentum is going to snap back a lot faster. And that's kind of what happens when you're looking at the dip, when you have that dip down below support, whether that be because a whale sold or a Bitcoin or something in the macros, whatever the reason may be, when you pull it down below that support, and even if it's already struggling, if you'll see stuff like an engulfing candle and it makes up for you made up for those in previous 48 hours in one day with that candle there, and then it started the next ascension higher. So in the event we go below 18, that would be optimal because typically you'll get some extreme price action or an engulfing candle that kind of rush back to seek equilibrium because that's where all markets do. They seek fair market appraisals where where the people say the value is, right? Kind of like what we see behind the scenes right now with longs versus shorts. Obviously, longs are saying, hey, this is worth more. So when you have people betting and saying that this is undervalued, we believe it's higher, the market determines the price. So this is, you can expect that type of price action going forward. And you can expect that price action if we dip below the support level. We typically have that rush back up to the higher side. So we're right on the bottom of the zone, right on the 14-day average. It can present a great opportunity because right now, obviously, this is the good, but below 18 is obviously would be great. Let's take a look here at the short candles, even though we look below, even though we look at the options. Yep, they are not doing much. Coming out, exiting some positions, but certainly not buying for the second day in a row. So again, so when you panic, look at some of the data. The longs are dominating, headed toward 80% long versus 20% short. The shorts don't believe it's going to go down. Otherwise, they'll be taking huge positions. They've been coming out of their positions for the last 48 hours. So they don't believe that Dogecoin is overvalued. So they believe that it's going to go up because typically that's the only reason why they wouldn't be in. Otherwise, they'd be voluntarily leaving money on the table. So they feel like it's too much of a risk to take a short position against Dogecoin at these prices. So that's another indicator. So if you don't want to believe what the longs are doing as an indicator for where price action is going to go, take a look at the shorts because they're also confirming what the longs are doing. They're saying, hey, we don't want to be on the wrong end of this. So they are being careful. Let's take a look here at, I want to take a look at BTC. Let's take a look at BTC shorts. BTC shorts are up. Up 16% of the day. You see the exact opposite? Let's take a look at the price action. Excuse me. BTC second day in a row down. Remember, this is historically, this is where it can go around that 58 mark, kind of getting the average of like the last 2 cycles. So wouldn't be the end of the world if it came down there. That would be kind of be in alignment with what has happened previously. But the shorts are taking position, and even before we even say, oh, it's going to be a 58 Bitcoin prior to having, we have quite a bit of, well, I'll say at least 2 levels, like around 63 and around 61, that can potentially bounce the coin. And this is what I was saying in my last video, like one of my theories, because I know the question was, are we going to have maybe a shortened cycle now due to the amount of investors that's in the coin? I don't have evidence yet. I think it's a possibility, but I don't have evidence yet because we could just have a more violent run faster. So that means that we could just run a lot faster sooner, and then have that sell off because of the amount of people that's in there. Or we could not have that steep of a sell off. We could see this could be the bottom for Bitcoin. This could be the bottom for Doge. And because of the amount of people that's in the coins, because when you have the market growing, that is going to leave the door open for a lot more capital to come in from a lot of different places, and that's going to give the higher potential for the coin to rally a lot sooner than when the rest of the market or some of the older investors would feel comfortable coming into the market. Because for some of us that have been in here since 2021, our averages are way lower than 18. So if in order to kind of get those the OGs, the older generation of Doge investors excited, it's going to have to come down a lot further unless they're just trying to increase their coin count. But with the amount of new people that were coming in, there's a lot of people that came in just last month, and they're like, hey, 18, this is right around my DCA. This is comfortable for me to increase my coin count because I don't have that many coins to begin with. So I'd rather have, 10,000 coins at 18 cents versus 1,000 coins at 18 cents and try and get a better deal, because obviously the multiplier there would make up for that difference in percentage. So this is kind of like the things that I think about when it comes down to whether or not we'll have like a shorter cycle or where we're going to rest at and support. So it's just kind of something to weigh out, because the market is different from last time. We're not running off of Elon. We're not running off of like Hopium and hype and stuff like that. We are just running off of the metrics and pretty much the facts and stuff that we have as far as for the community growing, utilization on X. This is certainly more of an organic run, right? So we kind of have to chart that and kind of keep that in mind as we're growing to see what the differences are and kind of give us compare it to like the last run. So I think we're going to mirror it, which is what we've done. But like we talked about in earlier videos, it's exciting that we're running early, because that's another thing to consider when we're talking about whether or not we'll have a shorter cycle or something like that, is the fact that we're running early. Like, technically speaking, people are complaining about the price of Dogecoin. Like, Dogecoin shouldn't even be running right now, like at all. Like, maybe like some slight fluctuations, but Dogecoin should not be running along with Bitcoin prior to having. Like that is unheard of. So people are complaining about the price right now. And I was like, Dogecoin should still be probably sub 10 cent if we're looking at this historically. So you can count this as a blessing that it's running early and running with it, because this ultimately can possibly extend Dogecoin's run. Because if it does run early and run through the halving and then with Bitcoin the entire time, it can actually end up running longer. And that can also help with where we end up having a peak bull run at. So just something to think about. Obviously, the cat's still out of the bag on that one. So we're charting that as we go, but it's just something to consider, right? So again, right around 18 cents, I think that we are good here. If we do get that breakdown below it, I think it will certainly be optimal to get there, because typically you'll make up that ground relatively quickly. So for those of you trying to get in, consider it. Obviously compound that with your own research, and we will keep track of this where we go and see how this kind of compiles with the other charts. We'll take a look at this later tonight. We know Dogecoin likes to run in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep. So if you haven't turned your notifications on, if something happens, certainly I'll jump on and give you an update with what we're seeing. If we have that big retest or an engulfing candle, some kind of signal of a reversal, then we'll kind of go from there. So that being said, If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please consider doing so. We are going to do our best to get 100,000 subscribers before Bitcoin hits 100K. So if you can help out with that, please consider subbing to the channel. Leave a comment with any questions, thoughts in the comment section. I'll get to as many of you as possible, and I will see you guys in the next video.